When I grow up, I want to be a surgeon and win an Oscar. It was so strange winning Miss Great Britain and then feeling more love from the Colombian community. You get a lot of backlash, you get a lot of hate, a lot of trolls. The UK press wasn't really behind me. They kind of like joked about me. They were pretty racist about me. Single mother, we had times when we didn't know where the next meal was going to come from. Colombian culture to me is salsa. It's a lot of different sounds, a lot of different rhythms, a lot of flavors. Just put it into my head that I wasn't worth more than just like the outside. Even though I got into entertainment and modeling and then ended up using my image as work, I was feeling shame about that for such a long time. Feminists would try and say, oh, but you're parading in a bikini, it's demoralizing to a woman. And I met some of the smartest, most empowered women I ever have out there. Oh my God, I love being on stage. I love working on a scene. I love developing a character. This is the first thing that I'm doing for like national TV. And I'm just going into the same box that I keep being put in. So we have to play up to the stereotypes to be able to get our foot in the door and then show. I've directed once.
Yeah.
For the first time ever last year.
Yeah. How was the experience?
When it was nearly done, actually, when we got the first cut, I hated it.
Really?
I hated it. Well, yoga came into my life when I was traveling, losing my hair, going through different health situations, going through a toxic relationship, all of these things, like having the PTSD, all of these things were reminders of that I wasn't listening to myself. Your soul and your passion will always want to push through. And if you don't listen to it, you will just be miserable.
Yeah. Hi, this is Beyond Real Talk, and I'm Andrea Ragazzo. And my today's guest is former Miss Universe United Kingdom, model, actress, writer, director, and yoga teacher. Is it right?
Yeah.
Tara Hoyos-Martinez.
Thank you.
Look, it's been a while.
It has.
Yes.
Yeah.
Last time I saw you, I think we were doing showcase.
Yes.
Working at
a
the
few
studio.
years.
Yes, it's been before the lockdown.
Was it?
I think so. I think it was basically 2019.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, with working out to studio with Lee.
Yeah, which wasn't working out to studio yet, I think.
He called it something else.
I think so,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, anyways, look, let's talk about you, because there is a lot we can talk about. You have Colombian roots.
I do.
Right, but you were born and grew up in London?
Yep, I was born here.
For me to understand the person that you are right now, I want to know more about your childhood, about what does Colombian culture means to you, and what it is in general.
To me, I had a pretty happy childhood. I was born here, literally in this house, not born in this house, but my mum moved into this house when she was pregnant with me. It was my mum, my dad, and me and my sister. We were always very much involved in Colombian culture. There wasn't that many of us here, but it was a very tight-knit, small community. Everyone knew everyone. My grandparents were some of the first Colombians to migrate over to the UK in the 70s. And my granddad had a nightclub, so did my dad. My family was one of the families that were most kind of well known. There were a few kind of core families that brought everyone over and they all kind of mingled together. So everyone knew each other. Because of that, we had a lot of friends. We had, family friends. So we all kept in touch. So I think that's why, and I'm really grateful for that the culture has always remained really alive in my sister and I's lives. We spoke Spanish first from being kids, and then we learned English at nursery. And we would always go to, my grandma was here, so we would go to church with her. and it was a Spanish-speaking church. So there was a lot of Colombians there. We would go back to Colombia every year, obviously just for like summer holidays and things. And we decided to move out there when I was 5 or 6. And we were there for maybe just under a year, but then my father fell sick and he ended up passing away while we were in Colombia. So because of that, we moved back. So had my dad not passed away, it would have been a very different life. We would have still been over there, I'm sure. Because the quality of life, if you have a business, if you have something set up, then it's great. It's a beautiful country, but there's a lot of socioeconomic things that, I mean, you need to have money to have a good life. There's a lot of poverty still, and back then even more so. But it was easier over here with the government help that you receive for my mum as a single mother to come back and raise 2 kids.
Yeah.
So we came back and yeah, I mean, life definitely changed. We went from a very comfortable lifestyle, going on holidays and not needing of anything to really, really struggling. Yeah. It was tough. And as much as in my mind, I remember having a happy childhood, becoming an adult, I've realized that was a lot of my suppression. When I've, gone through therapy or have talked with my sister about our childhoods, our point of views are very, very different.
Oh, really?
Very different. So I understand that a lot of my memories have been kind of, just kind of like putting a lid on things and, it wasn't that bad. It wasn't that bad. And you kind of get on with things. And it's very much a child of an immigrant family, how you're taught to deal with everything. But yeah, I mean,
toughen up.
Yeah, you have to. You just get on with things, right? But it was tough. So yeah, like single mother, we had times when we didn't know, where the next meal was going to come from. It was tough, but my mum is like the most incredible, resilient person ever, and she worked really hard to provide for us. And yeah, I think we turned out all right. I think we didn't do too bad.
Do you think you're stronger or not because of what you had to go through? Because of the childhood you had?
I definitely think...
Or is just one big trauma?
Yeah. I think there's definitely a lot of resilience that was built up, and it does make you stronger. I think I grew a thick skin from a very early age, but I wouldn't say that was the most beneficial, because I've seen as I've gotten older, like I said, that I suppress a lot. I maybe haven't spoken out. I haven't been as honest with myself as, maybe someone who hasn't been through all of that would be. So I mean, we were speaking about this a little bit before, but, you realize that your pain tolerance is very high. And that correlates a lot to suppressing of emotion. So sometimes you don't realize until the pain is so high and your body gives in, right? Whether that is physical, emotional, mental. And that's definitely what's happened to me in the past few years, which has been a huge awakening. And one of the biggest reasons to why my life has kind of taken a different path. And I feel very passionate about opening other people's eyes to that, and especially like children of immigrants, because it's something that we all have in common. And, seeing our parents kind of slowly awakening to the understanding that they don't have to just grit their teeth and bear it. And, they can talk and they can be vulnerable.
Yeah, I know. And the way I actually spoke just before we started recording a little bit about that, about like therapy and everything, and how it's for me, for example, it's just, I kind of get used to the thought right now that I might need it. And I might get it at some point when I can afford it and when I don't have all this. But that's a problem. You always have something around you that like, no, not right now, later. I just need to finish this and then I'll do this, what is good for me. But now I need to do this, what I need to do. And then, oh, you're dead. I'm sorry. No, I do understand it. But because I came from, ex-Soviet country, I went through 90s in ex-Soviet country. It was just a mess and poverty and banditism and everything. And I'm coming from kind of poor family. But now looking back at my childhood, it was fun. We had fun. We were out all the time. Now my kids are just, with those devices, and you can't, you try to limit the screen time, but it's... Anyways, Colombian culture. I always said Colombian pictures.
Colombian culture.
What is Colombian culture?
Colombian culture to me it's vibrant, it's color, it's salsa, it's a lot of different sounds, a lot of different rhythms, a lot of flavors.
You're a good dancer?
It's exuberant. I'm a good dancer.
Yeah.
You kind of have to be. I don't know.
I can barely walk. So.
It's something that you learn literally. Like I was 2 and I was learning to salsa with my dad in that corridor.
Nice.
It's definitely a thing that it's like a rite of passage when you're growing up, and it's how you kind of you meet as a teenager. You meet, other friends and your boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever, and it's actually quite hard if you can't dance. It's actually quite isolating.
Well, you can ask someone to teach you.
Yeah, no, you can, but I understand that it is hard for people who maybe haven't been taught to dance from a young age. It can become a little bit, alienating, and they feel that they can't really be included, which isn't, it's not the nicest thing, but it just is the way of the culture, and everyone just dances.
That's amazing.
So it's one big party. It really does feel like that. And whenever we go back to Colombia, it's like, it's exhausting because you're seeing family and you're out and you're this and you're that, and everyone's really loud and everyone's in your face. And I mean, I say everyone, that's a massive generalization, mostly also of like my city. So where I'm from, Cali, it's a lot rougher than some other places. So if you go to the capital, Bogota, it's a little bit calmer. It's just a completely different energy. So that's my, that's my perspective. That's what I have from it. So every time we go and then you come back to London, it's like, I love it. I love it so much. And it's home, but you also feel like that wasn't a holiday. Yeah. It's not a holiday. It's going home, and it's, being with family, and it's taking my energy, and it's,
it is a holiday, but you're like, you don't get rest. You don't get to rest there. You come back more tired.
There's no rest. You have to work harder to rest, if anything.
But when you come back there to Colombia, how different are you, mentally from, average Colombian? I mean, like your probably mentality and the effect of English, or rather London multicultural culture on you. Like, are you different? Because why I'm saying that right now, sometimes when I go back to Latvia, and in Latvia, it seems like everyone is just angry all the time. Like I'm
See, I'm a little bit of that.
Yeah. And I came here, I remember, I stepped on someone's foot and they apologized to me. And I'm like, what? Because back in Latvia, you were ready to fight. No, I'm joking. But people are more kind of, not angry, but kind of are like a bit ruder, more rude. And I come back now sometimes and I go to the shop and I ask, someone who works there a question, and they just like, whoa. And I'm thinking, why are you rude to me? And I'm talking to my friends who still live there, and they're like, oh, you little snowflake, you got soft. So is it like, do you think that London affects you, and when you come back, people say like, yeah, you are Colombiana or Colombian, but not really?
No, definitely. There's a massive mentality and behavioral differences, like the politeness, the maybe like, I mean, in London, you don't really go in the street and talk to people you don't know.
I don't.
You don't. You get in the tube and everyone looks down, and it's strange. If someone's looking at someone, why is this weirdo looking at me? Like, don't look at me. And then that's the London that comes out, right? And then there is that like kind of, there's this street smartness. This is kind of like aggro that comes out from being a Londoner that I think you have to have, or else you won't survive here. Because as you know, polite as the British are, the London streets can be hard, and you have to have that about you. Like, you speak to like a girl who's grown up in the countryside, or like, I don't know, Devon or something like that, we're different. But in Colombia, you go out in the street and everyone's like, buenos dias, ¿cómo está? Like, just someone in the street, like, how are you? How's your morning? You're standing in a queue and you're talking to people. You have a full-blown conversation with your taxi driver, whereas here it's just like, oh my God, my Uber driver's talking to me, like, why are they so annoying? And it's just the thing, like, Colombian people are so happy. They are very family-oriented. So there's so much warmth that I have as a person that I know comes from my culture. And I won't let that, it doesn't dim from just, from growing up here. It's definitely made me more tactile, more, sociable. And people think that that's just my personality, but it is a big part of my culture.
Is it a big switch for you every time when you travel there and back? Like, do you have to adjust to okay, I'm back in London, I need to tone down a little bit, like, of warmness or whatever. And when you go back there to Colombia, like, okay, actually, I can look at people now.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
I think so. But I think you even get that when you move out of London, because when you go to, like, say, the north. I used to live in Manchester, and I was in the Lake District a few weeks ago. So people still speak to each other. You're walking past someone, they say good morning. So that is a little bit like, oh, okay. And that's very similar to being in Colombia. So even just moving out of London, you get that. And you adjust. If anything, I do think I'm very good at adjusting to my environment and my circumstances. But I just try to be as me as possible. I wouldn't really change the way I am with a person, and if someone thinks that that's a bit much, then that's down to them. Like, that says more about them, that's your issues.
Yeah. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you were studying to become a surgeon?
I was studying biomedical sciences. I wanted to be a surgeon.
Yes.
That was the plan.
Yeah. How did you get into this? Why medicine?
So I thought being a doctor was, a surefire way to success. I thought it was, a credible career, and I did want to do it. There is a little book that I have from when I was like 4 or 5, and I wrote on my like dodgy child writing. It was like, when I grow up, I want to be a surgeon and win an Oscar. So it was like, they were like there, they were hand in hand. And I guess growing up, I never thought that being an actor was a possibility. I didn't think that it was something that I could do, or that anyone, that looked like me could do, or anyone that came from my background, or, I just never thought it was in my trajectory. And I thought if I work really hard, because I'm pretty smart, I can go to med school and be a doctor. And then it just became this thing that, everyone knew about me. My family was just all like behind me, egging me on. And I think I was the second in the family to go to university. And I was just like, I wanted to be a doctor. But I think in the long run, what it became was a way to prove people wrong. It did become a kind of rebellious act to try and get to med school and prove people that I could do it, prove to people that I could do it. I had a few occasions where people didn't believe that I was smart, or that I felt like I was always trying to prove kids or teachers, saying things that, inflict self-doubt and would make me think twice about, what do I really have to offer? Am I actually that smart? Or, what am I actually meant to do? I had a teacher when I was 15 tell me, she was a little bit drunk.
Good teacher.
It was like a parent teacher evening. I don't know what it was. I can't remember. But I was always like, not like a goody two shoes, but I always wanted to do extra. Like I wanted to help. So I would volunteer at school, and I was like a charity rep, and I was always fundraising. And so that evening I was volunteering, and I was passing around these like little things of champagne to the teachers. And she had had a few. And she said to me, Tara, like, I don't think you should bother with applying to med school. Why don't you just use your looks to get you by? And I just froze. And like, I was a little bit of a late bloomer, but I really didn't think that I had that. And so for other people to see that of me, it kind of, I don't know, it kind of just put it into my head that I wasn't worth more than just like the outside. Like I was very much basing my self-worth on a superficial quality, because that's what people would see.
Well, that's the first thing we see always. I mean, how someone looks.
Yeah, but as a growing female, more so, when you're trying to figure out your self-worth, you're trying to see what you can do and what you're capable of. And if people keep regurgitating the same thing to you, and not really picking up on anything else, that's the kind of the replaying narrative that is in your mind. And, like some people might say, oh, like what a wanky problem to have. Like that's not a problem or anything. But it did affect my confidence, because I didn't know if I was worth more than that. And so I tried to prove people wrong.
It's interesting because, some people, they just give in. They're like, okay, well, I'm pretty. But that's great. That's enough for me. And for you, it wasn't. Why? Why you wanted to be, not just be, I'm just pretty. I want to be more. I want to be smart. I want to be this and this and that. Like, what pushed you?
I'm not too sure exactly what it was, but I think I was really inspired by change makers and people who, leave a mark in the world. And learning about, I'd say like the suffragette movement was really inspiring. And seeing that there weren't that many people who looked like me, say in mainstream media, whether that be in music or in acting or writers or anything like that. I didn't really see that many people who were like me. And I thought there must be more that we can do. And the people that were there were kind of just known for being good looking or pretty. And I, from a very young age, I could see the fetishization of Latinas, and it would make me uncomfortable. So I think there was a part of me that tried to prove people wrong and show that we could do so much more. And there is nothing wrong with being called cute or pretty or good looking or whatever. And I feel very privileged and blessed that I had that as an experience. But when you're in a group of kids, and there was an exercise that we had to do where we would write, say, I think it was like 3 adjectives about a person. So you would get 3 people write things about you in a little piece of paper. And when it was meant to be like compliments about everyone in the class. And so some people would get like funny, intelligent, generous, kind, caring. And I would always just get very superficial comments. So it was like, even my friends in my class, don't you think that I'm loving? Don't you think I'm funny? Don't you think I'm something else? So it was very much a thing that was like going over and over and over. And I know that it has definitely affected so much more in how I show up as a person, in how I show up in relationships. It's definitely been something to work through as an adult, for sure.
And how is it going, working through it right now?
It's a process. It's definitely a process. It's understanding that everything is how it was meant to be, and understanding that maybe I was playing a little bit of like victimhood.
But how does it work for you? So are you trying to accept yourself for who you are, or is it like just like you realizing you don't need to prove anyone else who you are?
Mm-hmm. It's both. Yeah. It's not trying to accept, it's accepting. Yeah. So I think for a long time I wasn't, or I was trying to show that I could be more. But it's like, okay, it's full acceptance of who you are. It's full acceptance of everything you've been through, and also acceptance of what people thought or said or whatever, and then realizing that didn't matter at all, because what people think of you isn't what is putting food on the table. What people think of you isn't what is running your motor. You know, your passion, your drive. It all comes from within. So it's just growing up and realizing that we put so much emphasis on external validation.
Oh yes,
so much, and it comes in different forms. So it was understanding that was definitely my journey, and it was why I did some of the things that I did, and it was why, even though I got into entertainment and modeling, and then ended up using my image as work, I was feeling shame about that for such a long time.
Well, I want to say you shouldn't have, but I think you know that without me.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is, it's like as creatures, we try to save energy and to use whatever is given to us to get where we want to be. So if you have the looks, and I think it's proven that in anywhere, in any industry, people who are, handsome or beautiful or whatever, attractive, they're more successful. In basically anything, just because we as society, we kind of accept them more and like them
unfortunately.
More. So yeah, it is what it is. And so I don't think there is anything shameful in using how you look to do whatever you want to do. So,
Yeah, there shouldn't be. Yeah. There definitely shouldn't be. But I think there is when it's a matter of self-worth and you're struggling to find what else are your USPs, like what else do you have to give? And so I think that's why some people shy away from it. And, like the idea of beauty is in the eye of the beholder is so true, because it's all subjective, right? But like you said, like some people end up doing better because of how they look. But if you aren't a nice person, and if you don't feel within that you are beautiful or, confident, then that really does change the exterior. It really does. And it might, in a 2D form on a photo, you might look like something, but then people meet you and then no one wants to work with you. So...
but they have to, because studio said that we do.
I don't know, like, does that happen?
I don't know.
If you've like made it, if you're an asshole but you're already like a name, people put up with you, right?
I guess they have to sometimes. Like you hear stories. I don't know how much of those are true.
Yeah.
You hear stories, and anyone can have a bad day. As I told you, like right now avoid this. Like I'm nice, but something snaps, and I just and it's just I'm sorry. I had bad 5 years of piling up. This
building up. Yeah.
Yes, I don't know. So. You're trying to prove everything wrong, and then you realize that you're beautiful enough to be Miss Universe.
That's definitely not how it happened.
How does one decide, like, you know what? Yeah. I am actually pretty enough. How did it happen? No.
This is why it's hard to explain, because of everything that I was feeling, and then I go and put myself in a competition. So I can understand that people would be like, yeah, but so why did you do that? Why, if you wanted to prove people wrong, you wanted to be a doctor, why did you go and do that?
Yeah.
Honestly, what happened was, it was a moment of desperation. And I really, I never thought that it would get to the point that it did. I never thought that I would win. I never thought that, I just didn't think that it even held that kind of, that weight to it, like the competition. I didn't know that they did that here in this country, because in Colombia it's massive, in all of South America, in Asia. So when I saw that they were doing this, it was around 2 a.m. I was in Manchester, I was at uni, and I was broke. I was so broke. I'd spent all my maintenance loan. I was living on like potatoes. I was broke, and I was looking online for like how to make some quick money. And a friend of mine had suggested hair modeling. I'd never done any modeling. I think almost out, not even just like out of rebellion, but just not really believing in myself, or I just didn't think that I didn't know how to get into it. But I had really long hair at the time. And so my friend was like, go onto this site. They're sometimes looking for hair modeling. Like maybe you'll just get a hair trim and they'll give you £100, like just like a hairdresser's. So I did that, and I was looking, and then I saw this casting, and I thought, I didn't know that they did this. This is like some miscongeniality stuff like that. And I love that film, and I was like, maybe it could be a bit fun. And I did it as a joke, almost. I did it as the kind of like who knows. I sent off the application form, and then I was invited to a casting in London, and I came down to the casting, and that really gave me a lot of confidence, because I met the national director, I met the winner from the year before, and they were quite surprised that I'd never done anything like that. They were like, you've never done a pageant? You've never done any modeling? What do you mean? You're like fresh, you're brand new? And I was just sitting there like, yeah, I've never done anything like this. I don't know if I'm good enough. And I don't know, I think they saw something in me, and they saw this kind of innocence that I definitely had at that age. But they also, I feel like they saw a spark in something that made me stand out. And then I went and got a place in the final, just like that. And it was
what's the process?
Very fast.
How does it happen? Like, what's the process of you going to the casting?
So that year they did a casting, and then they picked out a few people, because normally what they do is they hold regionals. So each city or county in the UK will have their regional pageant. So you'll go and you'll be Miss London or Miss Manchester or Miss Liverpool, whatever. And that's how normally you gain a place in the final. That year, I don't know what had happened, if they had some spaces, they hadn't had enough regionals, because people have to want to hold the regional. So an external person will come in and want to hold that competition. And so, I don't know, I got lucky. That year, they were holding just casting. So I didn't have to do a competition prior to the final. And I got selected and went into the final straight away. And so then the final was maybe 3 or 4 months after I was selected, and you start training for that. So the finals Oh God, it's so long ago. There were 3 rounds. There's a bikini round, an evening wear round, and an interview round. And I just started doing loads of research, like, going on YouTube, seeing past winners. I would always been very good at interviews, from like my university interviews and like job interviews. I felt like I could, explain myself and defend myself pretty well, and express myself. So interviews didn't feel that hard for me. And I honestly think that I won on the night because I did consistently well in the 3 categories. I wasn't the best, I don't think I was. I know I wasn't. I wasn't the fittest. I wasn't the best in bikini. I wasn't the smartest, but I scored highly and consistently in all of the rounds. And that was a huge lesson for life, really. Like, you don't have to be the most talented. You don't have to be the smartest in the room, but you have to be consistent. And that stuck out. And I'm sure that that's why I won that day, because I was in the top 5 with a surgeon. There was a surgeon and I looked up to her. She was like 4 years older than me. She was a full-time surgeon, stunning, like doing everything that I wanted to do. And like an Asian bridal model. There was a girl who was very experienced and had already been to Miss World or something and had done so much more. And then there was, I was the only one in that top 5 that this was my first pageant. I don't know. People say it's beginner's luck. I don't.
Is there a lot of pressure to to keep some consistent weight, to have like the measurements and everything? Yeah,
massively. Yeah, this was 2010. So God, so long ago. So long ago. And there was still, we'd just come out of, the noughties where everyone was really, really thin. You had to be. So when I won, I wasn't like, I'd say like a model weight back then or something, but I worked hard to try and get to that. So there was a lot of pressure. I wouldn't say it's healthy. Definitely not.
Do you have like a team of people who work around you, or is it like it's not you who selects the dress and the bikini and everything?
So in different countries, it's a whole team and you have a lot of support. Here, you didn't really have that much support. Not really. And, being a 19-year-old, I just turned 20 when I won, I think. I was very impressionable. So I did a lot of things that people told me were the right thing to do. And, looking back, I wish I hadn't done them like that, maybe. Like using my most poshest accent, like my most well-spoken accent, because, I miss Great Britain. So I needed to sound extra English. My name that we used, they took out the Martinez. That was suggested to me so that I sounded less Latin. I didn't tan so that I looked lighter. My hair was suggested to go blonder. So I was quite blonde and pale to look more European. It was all kind of very much numbing and dumbing down my Latinness.
And you were the first Latin winner in the UK, right?
And only so far.
Yeah. Do you think all those things actually helped to win? I'm not saying it helped to actually to your feeling of your self-worth as Latina, but did it really help, or you think it was? Yeah,
I think definitely it helped me with the confidence of I have something different that there's not that many of us. So going in and being probably
I mean, like all the stuff that you had to do that they told you to do to look more European. Do you think it actually helped to win?
To win, that was after I won.
Oh, okay.
That was after I won. So that was when I was going to Miss Universe to represent the UK
in Las Vegas. Yeah.
Yeah. Before that, I'd never really colored my hair. It was dark. I was tanned. I was a little bit fuller. I looked very, very Latina and very different to everyone else on the stage, which probably helped me stand out on that night. But then in the long run, then they wanted to change me and make me... because that's when, you do get people that want to work with you and you do build a team because it has to be. You can't do that on your own.
Yeah.
And it's not just you. You're not just representing you. You're representing a whole country. So it was really tough. It was really, really tough.
Well, what's the process? How did they prepare? Well, so what kind of, you said third night or third day is like an interview?
Yeah. So
what kind of interview?
You go there for like a week and then you have an interview, maybe, I can't remember. I think we had the interview in the afternoon and you go in and there's like the past, maybe a couple of past winners and the current winner. And then maybe some other influential people. I don't know how they select them, but say, I can't really remember who. I have no idea who was on the judging panel that year for me. I think there was some kind of celebrity, some kind of presenter, an entrepreneur, different people in different industries and different levels of business. Because at the end of the day, they're looking for a spokesperson who will be the face of this organization, who will represent the country and go out and do work on behalf of the country and the organization. So it's charitable work, things like that. So they want someone that's going to, represent people.
All right. And what kind of interview are they doing? What did they ask you?
So for me, the interview was pretty easy, if I can remember. I remember there was one question about, why do you want to be Miss Universe? What makes you a good Miss Universe? So like a normal job interview, why should you get the role?
Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
And then I think the only question that could have thrown anyone off was, why do you want to work with the Miss Universe organization? Or there was something specific that I remember researching, and they specifically worked with a charity that focused on helping the Latin community that has been affected by AIDS. So that was definitely something that, was very specific to me as a Latina. So I kind of held on to that. And I guess they saw that I'd done my research and it helped. But they can ask so many random questions. They can ask kind of like cultural questions, current news.
And as a Miss Universe, so you get like some responsibilities. You work with charities. Do you get the same, but on a kind of smaller scale when you're Miss Universe United Kingdom?
You definitely, there is a role that you have to play. So for the whole year, you're working with the organization. You become an ambassador for certain foundations. So at the time, it was a foundation that worked with children with terminal illnesses. So that was beautiful because I managed to work with a lot of children and their families. And then you go around the whole of the UK to all of the regionals and start selecting for the next year. And then you'll go to banquets and dinners and things. And there's a lot of press and a lot of charity work, which was the highlight, really.
How did it feel on the day they pronounce your name? You are Miss Universe United Kingdom. How did it feel for you?
I didn't believe it. I didn't believe it. There's the video of my name getting called out, and there's the 5 of us stood at the back, And I heard the name, but I didn't register. So I was looking around like, who was it? Because they say, you know, the second runner-up. So the person who's third, they call them out. Then the first runner-up. And so there's 3 of us left. And I thought, oh, okay, I think I want her to win. And just kind of like wishing them well. I was just happy to be there. I was so grateful to be up there. The fact that I got to the top 5 was ridiculous. And I had already won Miss Charity. So as I mentioned, like I'd done this from being in school. It was something that I was really passionate about, charitable causes. So winning Miss Charity, which was the title for the person who had raised the most for the foundation, my mum and I really worked hard on doing so much. We did a whole like Disney themed photo shoot and sold calendars and things. So that my night was made. I was done. And then the girl that was next to me was like, "It's you." So I kind of went, "Oh shit," and then walked to the front, and I was like shaking, and I didn't compute. It didn't make any sense to me until a few days later. I was like, "Oh God, what have I got myself into?" Like really, like the fear kind of sets in. Like this is a big thing, and I kind of went into it as a bit of a joke, and I have to put in the work because it's not just me.
And do you go to the finals to Las Vegas next year, same year?
The same year.
Yeah. And how was it? I'm guessing it's much bigger scale?
Huge.
Yeah.
Huge. Like never seen anything like it and never will again.
Yeah. Well, we don't know that.
It's a once in a lifetime experience for sure. And it was probably one of the most exhilarating, most eye-opening, most pressure-filled, anxiety-filled experiences of my life.
Eye-opening on what?
It made me grow up a lot more. I was already quite mature, but it really kind of catapulted me into stepping into my womanhood and you know, really finding my voice, really growing a thick skin, like even thicker than I had already been building, because you get a lot of backlash, you get a lot of hate, a lot of trolls. You know, the internet was kind of not starting up, but it was, you know, like social media was becoming more prevalent. And
people started showing their faces online.
Yeah. There was a lot of hate mail, a lot of trolling, a lot of bad press. The UK press wasn't really behind me. They kind of like joked about me. They were pretty racist about me. Yeah. So it was tough. It was a lot of times I wanted to just give up. Because
why didn't you?
Because I realized that it wasn't just me. And I was, you know, I had my whole family working on this dream. And not just the people in the UK that know me in the industry and supported me, but everyone in Colombia as well. I had got so much love from Colombia. I got more love from Colombia saying, we have 2 queens this year.
Nice.
We have 2 representatives, which I'm sure the Miss Colombia wasn't that happy about. But I felt so loved and so accepted by my country, you know, my culture. And I think that was definitely, it was so strange winning Miss Great Britain and then feeling more love from the Colombian community and really kind of accepting me in a way that, you know, I'd longed to be accepted for so long because of, you know, being here. I wanted to shout from the rooftops that I am Colombian, I swear. Yeah, it was really beautiful, and I felt like I if I backed down, I would be letting so many people down, and I was there. Yeah. So it was really kind of like reminding myself that I deserved to be there, and I wanted to do the best.
Is it kind of the same competition but on a bigger scale, or it's different in the finals? More days, more things you have to do.
Oh my God, there was so much. Like So I think you're being judged the whole time, really, but actual judging moments, there's like the preliminary competition where there's a swimwear round, an evening wear round, and then there's an interview which is separate on a different day, and there's like 10 judges on one side, 10 judges on the other side, and you go in and it's incredibly intimidating, and it's like this job interview for the most coveted job position ever. It's really strange. And
did you enjoy it in the process when you were already there, or it was constant pressure and you were just like shaking? Yeah,
both, because I had some of the most fond memories from that time, and I made some beautiful friendships. We did have a lot of fun. Like the girls, like, making friends all over the world.
That's what I wanted to ask, because you know how there is like the stereotype, or as they show in movies, at all this like beauty contest, women are just cutthroat. They're just ready to, to intrigue against you and do something to win. How much of that is true, or how much of dramatization? Were there people who were really friendly, and were there people who were just like, I'm gonna cut you, bitch?
There's definitely some people that are just there to win and not make friends. There's definitely that. Like, I tried to speak to one girl and I thought that maybe she didn't understand me. So I spoke to her in Spanish and she still ignored me. So I was like, okay, it's very much a no-go. She's not here to make friends. Cool. And that's always been me. Like I have been a massive people pleaser. I always want to make friends and be liked. And it was, it's a big part of understanding who I am now as an older adult. But back then it was definitely like, I'm gonna speak to all the girls and I'm gonna make as many friends as possible. And that was a bit of my naivety, my immaturity. But I did make beautiful friends. Like my roommate was an absolute sweetheart. And I made great friends in Miss Jamaica, Miss Ireland, Miss Australia, who in later years I then met up with when I was in their respective countries. And so you do. You make friends all over the world. And that's such a beautiful thing. Like, in what other places can you find over 80 countries that are there, mingling and having fun and sharing food from the same table? It's a really special thing. As much as, like feminists would try and say, oh, but you're parading in a bikini, it's demoralizing to a woman. No one is there out of pressure. No one has been made to be there. And I met some of the smartest, most empowered women I ever have out there, and continue to do so. So a lot of my best friends now, to this day, came through that lineage of beauty queens.
So you know a lot of Miss somebody.
A lot.
Okay.
and the journey that we've been on together has been so surreal, but because we've made these relationships, because we've had this common experience, which is so surreal, so like alien to most people, we're able to bond in a different way. And we've all had that experience of finding our self-worth again and not placing it just on this title, and then being able to move out of it and finding our feet in some other path and some other, line of work. And there's a handful of my best friends have all been in the same position.
Nice. And how long was this contest there in Las Vegas?
I was in Vegas for a month.
Oh, really?
So as much fun as it is, there's times where you're just like, you're so tired, like you're sleeping 3-4 hours and expected to look great every morning. You wake up at 5 to do your full hair and makeup for breakfast, and then you have interviews, and then you have a fashion show, and then this, and then you have another thing, and then you're exhausted and do it all again.
How much did it give you in terms of opportunities? Being Miss Universe, United Kingdom, going there. Am I correct saying that you did some roles in Mexican telenovelas?
No, I was offered.
Oh, you were offered. Yeah. And you said no?
Yeah, which is crazy considering I'm now an actor.
Yeah.
And I do look back and kick myself sometimes because I was offered to come out to Mexico and to Puerto Rico for some TV opportunities. I was given a scholarship for the New York Film Academy, and I didn't take it. So it's just wild to see how my life has turned out, because at that point in time, I didn't want to be an actor. I wanted to come home and finish my degree, and I was gonna study medicine. And so these opportunities were presented to me, and as like twinkly and sparkly as they seemed, I was like, no, that's not for me. I'm not a quitter. I'm gonna go back home and finish my degree. But I did start presenting and modeling because of Miss Universe. And that opened up my world to so much more. And I traveled a lot because of that. And so I continued to present and model the whole way through my career. Like my whole 20s was that. And until I realized that I actually didn't want to be a doctor.
Mm-hmm. How did you come to that realization?
When I finished my degree in Manchester, I started working, saving up money. And from the money that I'd made, the little money that I'd made at Miss Universe, I then chose to blow it on a 2-year, it was pretty much a 2-year trip. So I had my goal set. I'd always wanted, since I was 16, I was writing it down. I wanted to travel the world. Yeah. I wanted to do a whole around the globe. When I was out there traveling, it was the most life-changing thing. Yeah. Like, more so, I wouldn't say more so, but on equal par to Miss Universe, because Miss Universe changed the direction that I was going in, for sure. That was kind of, it made me steer off, because I carried on doing things while I was at university. But then I was traveling, and it just opened up my world to so many more opportunities, and how I really saw my life turning out. I realized that I wanted to do so much more. I didn't want to be stuck in a lab. I didn't want to be working for an organization. I wanted more variety. I didn't know what I wanted to do. At that point, I still didn't know what I wanted to do. So I came back and started working in fitness while I figured out what I wanted to do. Mm-hmm. Because back then I had only done my biomed degree as well. So I still had to apply to go into postgraduate medicine and do all of that. And I just thought, I can't even think about going back into uni. More debt. I was already like 30 grand in debt. Ugh. And thinking about a postgrad med course, and then going into specialization, and then foundation doctor. And I was like,
it's like, what, another 4 or 5 years?
More. I'm not going to specialize until for another 10 years. So I was like, no way. And, back then I thought, no, I want to have kids by the time I'm like 28, and I want to do this and I want to do that. Did I do that? No. Have I done that yet? No. But it was definitely the right choice, because to be a doctor or a surgeon, I think, like, I really take my hat off to them. And it's such an incredibly difficult career that demands so much of your time and attention that I couldn't give all of that.
You could, but you didn't want to. You had other things to do.
I couldn't. I was maybe 60% in. And I think for that kind of career, it's a lifestyle, right? you have to be 100% in.
So how did you pivot into the acting?
So I was working in fitness, working for someone else's dream. And I was just like, oh my God, what am I doing? I'm not doing anything that I love. And I thought, like, what do I love? Like, what does my inner me, like the child in me, love? What did I always want to do? And the only thing was acting. Like, what else did I love? It was acting and writing that I'd loved since I was a kid, apart from food, but I didn't want to be a chef. That's just way too much pressure.
More than a surgeon.
Even more pressure. Like being in a kitchen, I was just like, I can't handle the screaming and the fast, like the danger. Like, no. So I decided to give it a go. I thought, okay, well, I'm 27. I'm not getting any younger. I'm either going to have to get a full-time job that makes some money, or I'm going to give this a go. So I went and I did a foundation course at the Actor Center just to see if I still enjoyed it. And I just fell in love again. I was like, oh my God, I love being on stage. I love working on a scene. I love developing a character. So yeah, that's how I started training again.
And now you are in this business of constant rejection.
Yeah. Which is no more safer, or no, I don't know. It doesn't have any security. And compared to what I wanted to do, that was the whole point, right? I want security. I want a definite career. And I still chose to go against that. But I think that shows, right, that your soul and your passion will always want to push through. And if you don't listen to it, you will just be miserable for the rest of your life. And I wasn't prepared to do that.
And what is acting scene in the UK for the Latina? Is it harder? Do you pushed into some kind of stereotypes, boxes?
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. Still, it's changing from when I started. Definitely, like my first big audition that came in for the BBC. I was so excited when it came in. I was like, oh my God, BBC. This was in 2019 or it was 2020 actually. And I opened it up and it was a Colombian cleaner. And I just thought, oh God, why? And no shade on being a Colombian cleaner, because most of my family has been, right? Most of our grandparents, our parents have had to do that. But it was this stereotype that we're trying so hard to move away from that I thought, this is the first thing that I'm doing for like national TV. And I'm just going into the same box that I keep being put in. And it felt, I don't know, like I was just kind of like, I don't know, succumbing to being who others want you or how they see you. You know, it was kind of like giving in. That's how it felt. But then I realized that sometimes you have to, because the people up there maybe don't have their vision as wide enough or as clear enough to see what you and me could be, right? So we have to play up to the stereotypes to be able to get our foot in the door and then show what we can do. Yeah,
the number of self-tapes I did for Russian bandits, Russian evil KGB, evil FSB, Russian soldier. Almost never is just, I had some, but almost never is just the regular guy.
Yeah.
Russian romantic interest.
Yeah.
Doesn't happen.
Just guy.
Yes.
Just like male.
Once I was in a Bollywood film, Russian man, but what did I do? I stole the baggage from the main character. Yeah, I guess. And the stereotypes, they're coming from somewhere.
Exactly.
Because sometimes it should reflect real life if they're like, but again, was it the audition for the series or whatever this was like that you auditioned for? Was it in the UK that The story was happening in the UK or in America?
It was happening in Spain.
In Spain, okay.
In Spain, but it was the BBC.
Yeah.
But like, it's funny because that feeling was, I guess, it was necessary. It was necessary to see that because, like you said, these roles come from somewhere, and it shows what we've been boxed into in the masses, in like general society. So we have to be able to show that we can do more. We can do that, but we can do more.
Yeah.
So it was necessary for my development and my understanding of how I'm seen in the industry and how I want to be perceived, and what I can do. But that series actually ended up being paused for COVID. And I ended up auditioning 3 times again for them. And it became my first TV role.
Which was
the Mallorca Files.
Okay.
In 2023.
Do you remember like your first role, like an actual production, not a student film? By the way, not shaming student films. I did some, and
I love
sometimes,
a student film.
Sometimes it's amazing. Sometimes it's great. But the first big productions, first of all, when you get the role, how do you feel?
I was with my mum and I just literally like screamed. We were on holiday because I thought that I wasn't getting it. And so this trip was on hold because it would have been filming around the time that we would have been away. And I said, well, I haven't heard anything. It's been 3 weeks. Let's go on holiday.
Yeah.
Took my mum to Thailand, and we're in Thailand in the hotel. I'd just been really sick as well, like about to die. Like I got like food poisoning. I don't know what it was, like something bit me, but I'd had a ridiculous fever for 2 days. We were about to call the hospital or whatever. And then it got better, and I got an email saying congratulations, and I just screamed, and I said to my mom, I've got it. I got the job that I didn't think that I got. And she's like, oh my God, everything happened for a reason. Like we were meant to come on holiday, you were meant to get it, and we were filming the following week. So I managed to have time to go home, unpack, and then repack to go out to Mallorca. But it was just, it was such an incredible feeling. I remember going out onto the balcony and watching the sunset, and I was just crying happy tears because I was like, oh my God, finally something.
Were you nervous?
No, I wasn't nervous. No, I was just so excited and eager to work. I got nervous when my first big talking scene was about to happen, like just before it happened. That was the only time the nerves set in, and I remember kind of feeling like, oh, I'm sweating, and I'm and there was so much to think about because it was a quite like dynamic scene. Like it was an intense scene between me and the protagonist, but there was also, we were passing food around, with props, with set design, everything has to be placed back in the same place. We were picking up cutlery, but we couldn't make any noise because obviously they needed to hear us. There was so much to think about, not just my acting with the protagonist, right? So there was so much, and there was all of these essays. We were around a whole table, and then obviously you've got the whole crew and everything, and I was like, oh my God, wow, okay, this is intense. And then my co-star, the protagonist, she did the most beautiful thing, bless her. She turned to me and she put her hand on my knee and like gave me a little squeeze, and she was like, you got this.
Yeah. Oh.
And I was like,
nice. Who was it?
Ellen Reese.
Yeah.
She's amazing.
Yeah. That's fantastic. And have you seen the final product?
Yeah.
How you felt about
I loved it.
Because I don't know about you, but it took me such a long time to get used to seeing my stupid face on screen.
Oh yeah.
I just like and also it's so different from what you like. I felt completely different. Now it just reads different, and I
thought I looked so different.
I look stupid. Whatever you do with your mouth is stupid. I just want to punch you in your stupid face, and it's bad acting. And I think now I kind of got to the point when I can be somewhat objective. Mm-hmm. I can see when it was bad acting. And I can see when it was all right. How all right? I don't know. I'm not that objective. But at least I got used to seeing this on the screen and hearing this. And now I edit the podcast. So,
now you want to see yourself more.
Yeah. No. So, but how was for you? How do you feel watching yourself?
Oh, it was the same. It took so long for me, but I think I had a lot more time to get used to that, with like modeling and presenting and stuff. So I've been used to seeing myself on camera. It still doesn't get any easier. I still judge myself. But I think I started to let go of how I look, but that was very much like in my early 20s and when I really started acting, it was more focusing on, my performance. But even then, like, you don't like the sound of your voice, or I said this wrong, or I didn't like, that wasn't the best take. And you just have to let that go because it's not in your control, is it? So you see an edit and you're just like, really? That really wasn't the best take, but okay, fine.
Yes. And
whatever.
Sometimes you feel like, I remember this moment. Oh, I remember, I think it was very good here.
Yeah.
And they got away straight before that moment when you think you are very good.
And then you have to release all of that, right? Because it's just your ego, and you realize that you're just a small part in this whole production, and it's not just about you.
It's not about you.
It's not about you.
Yes.
So it's just like relinquishing that control, and it's just another beautiful lesson in detachment, because you just have to be like, okay, that's done. Like on an overall kind of like, the overall package, it was great. I didn't enjoy my first scene. I don't think it was the best take, but everyone else seemed to love it.
Yeah.
And the fans, the series has some like diehard fans, which are great. And they loved that episode.
Yeah.
They loved that episode because it was really, really different to the tone of the rest of the series. It was a lot more kind of like fantasy. And it was great to play like an Amazonian kind of warrior. She was badass. So it was so much fun.
Nice. And how do you prepare for the role? Do you have like your own kind of process, or it's different every time?
I think it's different every time. But definitely I try and just get into the physicality of the character. And really just live in their world as much as possible. And it's different for every role. With this one, I think most of what I wanted to do was really understand how she had ended up there. So my character in that episode of the Mallorca Files is a bit, kind of like not male hating, but there's no men allowed on the island. So she's a bit abrasive when a male comes near the island. So understanding why that has happened, what has led her to be that way. She idolizes her mother in that episode, and she's been taken in by this community. So it was understanding that and the parallels that I might see, in my own life, and seeing how I could bring parts of myself to her.
And since then, what would you say were your most favorite projects you worked on?
Well, that's been the biggest project I've worked on, to be honest. That's been like the main, speaking role that I've had. Since then, I had a brilliant scene in FBI International. I shot that last year. It was challenging because at first it came through and it was a really emotional scene, and I got a dummy scene with like dummy lines. And then when I got given the role, I found out that it wouldn't have any lines. And so I was a little bit upset about it at first. I was like, oh, I've got this role. It's my first like US TV role, and now I don't have any lines. But then once the ego is removed and I was preparing for it, and when I went out to do it, I realized that it was the most challenging role I've had to do.
Yeah.
Because it was the most acting and living in this circumstance with no dialogue. So the dialogue sometimes helps you, right? Well, normally it helps you so much to lead your intention, but I couldn't rely on any words. So I worked with the director on finding the different levels of breaking points, which that character is at the beginning of this episode, and it was necessary to, to be really impactful, because she's the person that they're investigating, the death of that person in the episode. So it was really it was great. So it was funny how I started seeing it as something negative, and then you come out and see that it's a huge lesson.
Yeah.
And it required something more of me, a different skill that I hadn't experienced yet. So I was so grateful for it, and it was great to watch back, and really emotional.
Is it? Wait a second. Where did we film it? In
Budapest.
In Budapest, yeah. How did you enjoy it?
I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved it. Yeah, I'd never been. I got a day to go around by myself. Yeah. I did everything that I could. I literally was like, I did everything. I was exhausted by the end, but I went to the baths. I went on a tour, like a river tour. I went shopping. I did so much. Loved it.
And then you started writing and directing. What pushed you to the writing and directing? Creating your own opportunities?
Definitely. Just waiting around for something to happen. And then you're like, well. So the first thing that I actually finished, because I would write little bits everywhere, and I have done all my life. But the key is to finishing something, right? And that's the hard part.
Yes, I know.
That is the hard part. Actually getting something to full completion.
Yeah.
And so there was a competition that was held by a Latin American film production company, and they wanted a screenplay for a short. They was choosing 6 to produce as a kind of little collection of short films written by Latin American writers in the UK. And I was like, this is me. So because I had a deadline and I had this goal set, I finished it.
Yeah.
I finished something that I'd already started writing, and I didn't sleep for maybe, 3 days, but I got it done. And it won. It was produced, and
you're good at winning in contests, yeah.
I haven't won the lottery yet. I'm still waiting to win the lottery.
Do you buy lottery tickets?
No, I probably should buy them.
Yeah.
I don't know. Blessed, lucky. I don't know.
Yeah. Or talented.
And
beautiful.
I don't know.
And good talker.
Something's working. So it got chosen and it got produced and it was made, and I didn't want to star in it, and so they did the casting for it, and we had the breakdown and everything, and it was kind of a not biographical, but it was definitely things that I'd been through.
What was it about? What was the short?
It's called You're Just My Type.
Yes.
And
I watched the trailer.
Yeah.
Just before you talk about it, here's my impressions with the trailer. So you, as a Latina, go on a date, right? Mm-hmm. Not you, your character. Mm-hmm. And the guy starts talking about stereotypes, and you there is battle of, not the battle, but there is you in your head who is very fiery and, about tell about this stereotype, and you just you just don't like the stuff that he says, and it's all stereotypical, but at the same time there is a little bit of a stereotype that actually fights with all of that.
Yeah.
Is it kind of?
Yeah,
yes.
Exactly. So that's definitely what it was. It was the stereotypes that come out, and the kind of very common casual racism that is maybe said to you in jokes by people at work, or people you meet, or people on dates, But then the battle, the internal conflict with you letting out that stereotype, which is definitely there. Like we said, stereotypes are there because they live in reality. There is some truth, but it's about understanding, when do we let that out? When do we hold it in? When do we play up to them? Because we can, and we do, and I definitely have. So that was where the inspiration came from. It was, you know, in my like dating history, little things that have happened, and also things that have been said to me in other occasions. And, you know, things like, oh, you're Latina, you must be really fiery. And it's so boring. It's so like tiring. Like who doesn't? I mean, okay, not everyone has a fiery side, but most people have a fiery side. Most people.
I know people who are cold as stone in Antarctica.
But true. And it's kind of like, it's still surprising sometimes when you see someone who's like really gentle and really lovely, but you know, it takes something to make them see red, and it comes out. And so that's kind of, I think, where I was playing with it is, yes, she looks like a stereotype maybe, and that's what you think of her, but she's so much more. She doesn't mean that she doesn't have that. She can have that, and she'll play up to it and use it, you know, to her advantage. So yeah, it was really fun, and it came out as a comedy, which I didn't expect.
So when you wrote it, it wasn't a comedy.
I didn't think it was going to be a comedy. And when I saw people laughing, that was such a great feeling.
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't say that I am good at comedy, which is, comedy's hard.
Oh, yeah.
As an actor, comedy's hard. And then as a writer, you don't write to be funny. You know, you don't write, it's just the situation or the dialogue that ends up being comedic. Like if you're writing to be funny, I don't know. So I think it could definitely go wrong.
Yeah.
So I didn't expect it to be like that. And then when we were watching it and we played it out and the audience is laughing at the right moments, I just was like, oh my God, yes. Okay, it's funny.
What are the stereotypes? What are, like, is there such a thing as positive stereotype? And is it
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely. Like, I mean, people say that we're hardworking, which we are. We've had to be, because, you know, there's been a lot of battles and things that we've had to overcome.
Yeah.
As a people, as a culture, as immigrants, that we're vibrant, that we're very warm, that we like to party. That's all true. But then, you know, it can also, the kind of like the party hedonistic kind of aspect of that can be a bit of a downfall to people. And, you know, we overcome it. So there can be positive stereotypes. Even the fiery one, it can definitely be a positive one in the right situation. You know, I know how to defend myself. I can use it to my advantage. I know that I believe that there is fire necessary for shit to get done, right? If you don't have any fire within you, then you're just going to be put out very quickly. Yeah. So there's things like that where it can be positive. But, you know, in that script, some of the negative ones were like turning up to the date and, you know, looking a certain way and sounding different. So I sit down and he says, I thought you were, I can't remember what he says. I thought you were Latina. I thought you were from somewhere. And she says, yeah, I am, but I was born here. And that was a real life said, and it's been said to me many times. Yeah. Like, oh, I thought you were Colombian. Or I thought you were, but you sound different. It's like, well, duh. Well, so I can't sound English. I can't have a London accent. And
how do people know that, like, or think that you're Colombian before they met you? Did they read about you or what?
Yeah, so like internet dating.
Okay.
You know, like those good old days. Like being on an app and then meeting someone and being like, oh, well, you look like this. I didn't expect you to have like, I thought you would have an accent. So then she's like, oh, well, I'm sorry to disappoint. And then it becomes a fetish, right? It's like, why did you think, is that why you were wanting to meet me? Like you only wanted to date me because you had an ideal of this person and an expectation. So then it follows on from there.
So you're happy with the result?
I was happy. I was happy, yeah. The kind of the inner thoughts and the exuberant, more, you know, the stereotypical Latina second person on the side, that came about literally on the day of shooting.
Right.
I didn't know how we were going to portray that. And that was a director's idea. I thought it might be a bit cheesy at first, but it came out great. Yeah, I loved it.
When we'll be able to see it? Because there is only trailer available now.
I don't know. I keep asking production. You know who you are. Can we put it up? Full,
is it on a festival run right now?
It was back then. And I think they had another showing recently.
Yeah.
Of all of the films, because there is a collection. There's 6 of them, which the rest of them were so great as well. So we would like to see all of them. But they're still holding on to them.
And what else are you writing about? What is there like a subject or direction, or you just write about anything?
So, I mean, I think you write what you know. I think that's the easiest way. And when you ask me what I'm passionate about and what drives me, is one of the biggest things, not the main thing, but one of the biggest, is highlighting my community in the UK, because I think we're so underrepresented. There's so many of us, and we have, you know, these pockets of creatives and incredibly talented people that are doing things, but we're still not like mainstream enough. So I would love to be able to write more for my community and highlight our stories and show the more kind of unseen stories that we have, like not just fitting to the stereotypes.
The community, like, are you talking about Colombian or Latin American in general?
Latin American on the whole.
Is it the big community?
It is, and it's growing fast. And I mean, there's so many undocumented people, so the numbers aren't really, you know, you can't really know for sure. But there's been a huge influx of people coming in from Spain in the last few years. So they're not even counted because they are counted as Spanish almost, but they've had to relinquish their Latinidad, their Latin identity, because of, you know, racism and, you know, needing to fit in Spain. So they're counted as Spanish because they've come from there, but then they're not. They're you know, they're from South America. So it's a massively growing community, and we have so much to offer, and I would like us to have our moment, you know, like other ethnicities have had and are having in current mainstream media. I feel like everyone has their time, and it's definitely been on the rise with music, with Spanish speaking music being fully in Spanish, and, you know, everyone listening to it. So I think it's coming in film and TV.
All right. So keep writing.
I shall.
And you also directed.
I've directed once.
Yeah.
For the first time ever last year.
Yeah. How was the experience?
I loved it. It was tough. It was incredibly eye-opening to have so much on your plate, like so many things that are thrown at you and that you're responsible for. I was just like, wow, it was stressful.
How did it happen? So who wrote it? How did you get into this project? What were the biggest lessons? So
I got into it because my friend who runs a production company, who was one of the, he was the DOP in the short that I wrote. He has his own production company, and he was building this anthology of short films. And so he had, I think it was 10 scripts written by people. I'm not sure if they were all in Oxford, but he contacted me after seeing a play that I had directed. So sorry, that was the first thing I directed. I directed the play the year before, and he came to see that, loved that, and enjoyed my vision, and had already seen my work ethic as an actor in front of the screen, and also as a writer. So he believed in my creativity, my work ethic, and asked if I would be up for directing one of the shorts. And I said, yeah, okay, sure. He asked me to read the script. I loved it. It was incredibly relatable. It was a beautiful script. And then we jumped into it. And he was very patient with me. I did say, I haven't done this before. I'm going to be learning on the job.
Yeah.
I can only come into it as a director from an actor's perspective, which I know is a perspective that is incredibly valuable.
Yeah. This perspective that I think lacking very often, because there are a lot of directors who are very good about technicality, setting up the frame, lights, and they know all the lenses, they know everything. But at the same time, they have no idea how to work with actors.
Yeah. And so that's the only thing that I had in my repertoire, in my bag to come with.
But
and
that's
then
the thing.
learning.
I think for everything else, you have other people.
Yeah, you do, but you do need to make decisions.
Yeah.
So we worked together on the shot list and where everything was coming in from, and if this was a wide shot, where did I want the focus to be? What was the, so we worked. I learned so much because I had to make all those decisions, but then working with the actors obviously was my favorite thing, and getting that feedback of, you can tell that she works with actors, so it was great to work with her. That was really lovely.
Were you involved in casting?
Yes.
How did it go?
I knew.
Did it teach you anything, did you actually go through self-tapes, or you knew who you will be working with?
Yeah, I already knew who I wanted. So we contacted them, and then there was a couple that we did self-tapes for. Yeah. So it wasn't too difficult.
Okay.
It wasn't too difficult.
It's not like going through tens or hundreds of tapes.
No, because it was mainly the protagonist, and there was a couple of other roles. And the protagonist, I knew who I wanted it to be straight away, and she jumped at the chance. And then the other roles was just working out the chemistry between them. So we had a couple of self tapes, and it was pretty easy.
And what have you learned about directing in general? What are there things that you have had no idea you would have to deal with?
I don't think that I didn't. It wasn't a surprise that I had to deal with, but I think it was. There was a lot of pressure on the day to keep track of everything. I know that obviously on a bigger scale production, you would have people doing that, and someone who's looking at your shot list, making sure that you've got everything, and making those like quick on the job cuts and decisions where you have to be quite cutthroat, and you're on a time limit, a budget limit, and you find that there's this urgency and this kind of this not nastiness, but there's this like abruptness that comes out that I was quite shocked that came out in me. And I did say to people, I was like, I'm really sorry. There's like, the people pleaser in me. I was like, I'm really sorry if this comes across as in a way that, is a little bit short, but it's not personal. We have to get shit done. And, it's so eye-opening when you're on set and you're just like, people become kids and people don't listen. And no wonder that you're getting shouted at, because when you put a group of people together, they just start talking and they just become kids. So, and when you're an SA or you're like in a small scene and you're being shouted at by the AD, and you're like, oh God, like, who does he think he is? Or talking to me like I'm a child or whatever. That's why. So that was so clear. It was quite funny to see those characteristics come out in me.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And you enjoyed the process?
I enjoyed the process. I enjoyed having so much. It sounds a little bit, I don't know, egotistical or controlling, but I liked having an input.
Yeah.
I was going to say I liked having control of everything, but it's not that. I liked having an input into so much of the project.
Yeah.
And then seeing literally from its conception to the finished product. And when it was nearly done, actually, when we got the first cut, I hated it.
Oh, really?
I hated it. And my DOP was like, what do you mean?
What did you mean?
I was like, I hate it. This has got my name on it. And all of this stupid stuff came up for me. Like, it wasn't what I imagined. It wasn't what I thought. It wasn't what I wanted to portray. It wasn't the tone. And he knows this. We had all of these conversations, together. And again, it was a huge lesson in detachment. It was a huge lesson in letting go of the preconception of what you think it will be, but you're working on, like I said, a budget, a time limit. We didn't have the opportunity to shoot things again, and you had to make do with what you have. So naturally, if something isn't good enough, or if something isn't gelling, or if the sequence isn't fitting, you have to give in, and you have to cut some things out and rejiggle it, and maybe the whole film changes. So yeah, that was a lesson.
But have you got used to the result? Do you like it now, or are you still kind of like,
when I saw it at the premiere with the music and everything and the whole finished product, I was actually really proud.
Yeah. How much? So when we watch it, by the way, when will we be able to watch
That's
it?
in festivals right now,
Okay.
so I don't even know.
So how much of it is really you? In the final result, how many? Because sometimes I've heard, especially as a first-time director, that there was a lot of people who were helping you, right, to do everything. So how much of it actually your vision, and how much of it just a not well-oiled machine that you were just kind of steering a little bit, and or was it really kind of everything that you will see was your vision?
I think I'd say maybe I worked so closely with my DOP, and he's a director as well.
Yeah.
So he was teaching me a lot of the stuff. So I don't know about 50-50, but he would give me the final say, or he would ask me, what is it that you want from this? And if I couldn't explain it because I didn't know the technicalities, he would give me options.
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe 65%, 70%. I don't know what he would say. But I had a say in everything, and we worked on everything together. And even to the edit in the end, when I wasn't happy with it, I said, okay, I need to come and sit with you for the edit, because I'm not happy with it, and we need to change things around.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel like I had plenty of input. It definitely felt like it, and the stress was definitely the stress was there.
Yeah. Are you planning to direct again?
I would love to.
Yeah.
I would love the opportunity. Ideally with more time and more budget. That's always the wish.
I think time and budget, that's the main thing.
Time and budget, because it does.
Wants. Yeah,
it makes such a huge difference with like the quality of stuff. And you have in your mind, oh, this is going to be amazing. But if your equipment, if your casting isn't, there's so much, there's so many other things to rely on, that it's just not your vision if you have limited resources.
You'll have more people who know what they're doing with more money. Like you will have, for any little thing, you will have a specialist, Because I remember I was talking to Will Johnson on a podcast, check the episode, and he was in House of the Dragon. And he said, like, there was his last scene, it's like, it's a big scene with a lot of people, but he said like, we were filming this scene for a week from every angle possible, with all different, options, all different versions of how you interpret the situation from an acting point of view. You give them this, and then this, and then this, and they like free to choose whatever. And it's just because they have time and money. Yeah. Something that we all want to have.
It's true. I just filmed something last week in Ireland, and I thought I'd be in there for like half an hour, or an hour max. We were there the whole day, shooting this tiny little scene. And it's eye-opening when you have all of that money. And you meticulously go through every little thing for a second of film.
Yeah. There are like 4 people around one actor, like making makeup, hair, costume, just like, let's just clean.
And you're like, is anyone actually going to see that? But it is, and this is someone's job. It's a whole department, and everyone takes their job incredibly seriously. So you should too.
But that's the thing. Like, you think sometimes, is it really necessary, all these things that are happening around them? But then you can really see expensive production and cheap production straight away, and you don't maybe even understand what the difference is, because you try to you look at it, but everything looks just a little bit cheaper. The hair, like the wigs, you look at it, it's a good wig, should look real, it doesn't. Why? Everything. And it's a huge thing. That's why they do spend so much money
and win awards for stuff like that. Like, I was on something where it was like a huge period costume, and I was like, no one is going to see my tights. Who's going to see what I'm wearing underneath the 3 layers of skirt that I'm wearing? But then you understand when you see everything, and it's like the attention to detail and the accuracy and authenticity of the era. You have to go all in. And that's why they win awards, and that's why they are the big players in these departments.
Yeah. What would be your dream roles?
So the little girl in me would love an action, like a superhero. I would love that. I would love a superhero franchise where you're just like set. But I also, I think it can be, it can be hard for you to get boxed in that role, and then sometimes be able to like be seen as something else. But I would love to be able to play something like that, or like I love agent kind of like Salt, Angelina Jolie and Salt, and all of like Liam Neeson's stuff. Like I just love that kind of like thriller action, high octane.
Well, then you definitely need to watch John Wick. There's a lot of action. And it's actually good action. Right now, I would say it's the best in the industry.
Really?
If we talk about fights, and just because the guys who I forget the name of directors, but they are stuntmen originally. They worked stuntmen their whole lives. Now they're directing. So when they do stunts, they do it right.
High level.
There is no 10 cuts for one punch, because the latest films with Liam Neeson, there was this famous scene when he jumps over the fence, and there are like 8 or 9 cuts just to jump over the fence. And here they do like one shot with the full fight, and it's amazing what they do with John Wick and Extraction with Chris Hemsworth.
I watched that one scene. I just didn't like Extraction 1. I thought it was boring. But that scene is in Extraction 2, right? Yeah, that's insane.
Action-wise, it's just what they do is fantastic. But anyways,
But I like action that is led by narrative. I don't just like watching action. That gets boring to me. I like a story. I like something that you can really like get your teeth into. And that's why I love thrillers as well. So something like Gone Girl or things like that, you know, like that Rosamund Pike plays so well.
Yeah, that was a good film. It was very unexpected. It's based on the book, right? I haven't read the book, so when I was watching it, there were a couple of twists. I was like, "Whoa, that was good." Yeah. You know what's interesting? Because when you said, and again, like talking about stereotypes, when you said like the little girl in me wants action, not princess, not Disney princess, but you said like that's interesting. So where you are a daredevil.
Yeah, I think so. It's like I could definitely be seen as a princess and box into it, and I get cast a lot as, you know, like the best friend, the girl next door, and stuff like that. But there's a part of me that just wants to be, you know, this badass, like CIA bitch. So, I don't know, like, or like a villain or something really surprising. I like the element of surprise and shock and,
And then there is another twist in your life, spiritual. So correct me if I'm wrong. You are a Himalayan Kriya yoga and breathwork teacher. So how did that come into your life, and what is Kriya yoga? For me, as a very, very unspirited and uncultured swine.
Unspirited?
Whatever. It's not even the word, but
you have a spirit.
yeah, and it's not that strong.
Everyone does. Maybe it's just a little dormant. You need to.
The only spirit in my life is that I'm pouring in a glass.
Good one. Good one. Well, yoga came into my life when I was traveling. Those 2 years after I graduated and was working a little bit, and I went traveling. That's when I found yoga, and it really helped me find peace and inner calm. You know, the kind of really typical things that people talk about when they go into yoga. I needed to find some quiet. I needed to find connection. After going through all of this, you know, like high pressure stuff with Miss Universe and not knowing what I wanted to do and everything, I really needed to come back to myself and reevaluate, because that was the problem. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. So that's what yoga really helped me for, like reevaluate and find who I am underneath all of the layers at my core. And so I practiced for maybe 10 years, I think. And I wasn't ever sure about teaching. But then I wanted to do a teacher training course to further my own knowledge of yoga. And I wanted to go away somewhere where, you know, there was I think I've always been spiritual, and I relied on that faith of knowing that there is, you know, a higher being. But I'm not religious. I'm not a fan of religion and being the indoctrination of like a specific way of life, or like a guide that you need to follow and these rules that they set out for you. But I'm a big believer in a higher power, in energy, in how we can, you know, cultivate our own energy and how we can harness it and everything like that. So I would dib and dab in different things. Like I would meditate and read different things, and going to Asia and seeing these different spiritual communities, I felt really at home, and I felt like I wanted to know more. So places like Bali and Thailand, where Buddhism and, you know, other spiritual communities are around, and they have a lot of influence. So I was finding yoga, I was finding different types of meditation, different ways of thinking. And I really wanted to go to Bali or India to do a teacher training, but then COVID hit, and the world shut down, so I couldn't go anywhere. So I did my first teacher training online because we didn't have anything else to do. So it was the perfect timing, and I really immersed myself into the yogic teachings, and I lived how you would if you were out there on a retreat. So I was fully vegan and was waking up at 5 to meditate and pray, and but it still didn't really hit. It didn't really connect. It didn't fire up something. I don't know, something was missing. And now I realize, obviously, if you do something online to doing it in person, it's wildly different. But also the type of training that I had done, I feel didn't shake me up enough. It wasn't in depth deep enough as to what I've been through recently. So then last year I went to India, and I went to India twice or 3 times and did a few trainings out there, which were completely life-changing. And that is where I found Kriya. And so Kriya is an ancient Himalayan technique that is used to bring about a change in your energetic state. So it's incredibly powerful, and it can be used to pretty much do anything. It can be used to calm. It can be used to activate. It can be used to, if you're feeling a little bit lethargic and you need more energy, you can do that. If you're feeling restless and you need to bring yourself down, it can do that. It can bring in confidence. It can bring in self-love. You can work with your different energy centers to bring in all of these different, emotions or attributes that you want to bring into your life. So I found it incredibly healing, and it helped me a lot in my mental health and in my emotional state. And I was going through a really tough couple of years. I was having some health issues that are still ongoing, but I'm managing them much better. I had developed really bad PTSD after an accident. I was shaking a lot. I was having panic attacks, having a lot of chest pain. So it was a lot of intense physical symptoms that I slowly started getting rid of. And then the Kriya kind of integrated it all and allowed me to remember what my body actually was capable of, because I felt like I'd lost the connection with my body through all of these other things, through the health stuff and the anxiety and stuff, because your body kind of isn't functioning with your mind, and you kind of lose control of it. That's exactly what a panic attack is. You lose control of your senses. And I felt like I'd lost so much control. So that's what it did. It helped me regain the balance of finding control of my body and connection, and also relinquishing control of my external circumstances and realizing that I don't have the power to control anything outside of me. And so releasing that anxiety.
You mentioned PTSD from accident. What kind of accident?
I had a car crash in January 2023. And I had just been diagnosed with alopecia areata. So I started losing my hair in January 23. And then this car crash happened literally 2 weeks after. So my body was already in high stress mode. And then I had this crash, and it was just a whole jolt, a very literal jolt to my system. And I wasn't badly hurt. No one was badly hurt, thank God. But I only realized the repercussions as time went on. And so then a few months later, I noticed that I had been shaking without knowing. I was really jumpy. I had hypersensitivity to light and audio. I couldn't be in a cinema and watch a film because it was so aggressive to my senses. Being in a car was just a lot. And I thought I was overreacting a little bit. Like I didn't really talk about it because of this whole thing that we were talking about, the pain tolerance, you know, we suppress and you kind of just like deal with it. And then I started having therapy and they were like, you have PTSD.
But I haven't been to war.
What? I haven't been to war. I thought PTSD was something that you get after years of really intense stuff or, you know, like abuse or something, you know, something like that. And then they were like, no, it's any traumatic event and your body's just not handling it. So it's the trauma after the event. That's PTSD. And my body wasn't handling it, obviously, because I was suppressing. My hair was falling out because my cells are attacking themselves. There's a lot of inflammation in the body due to stress, high cortisol. So any little thing that was pushing me over the edge was very, very big. Like in the physical realm, it was very visceral.
And how does yoga help with that? What are the like most simple practices? Because what I know about yoga, I don't know much about yoga. First of all, the most easiest one, you know, most common thing, you have to be flexible.
You don't have to be flexible.
Also, you need to learn how to breathe because apparently we don't know how to breathe.
Yeah.
And then you find Zen by not thinking. That's all the stereotypes that I know about yoga. That's it.
So you don't have to be flexible.
No.
Definitely not.
Okay.
That is a byproduct of it. You work up to becoming more flexible than you are when you start. There isn't an end goal of flexibility because what you learn to realize through yoga is it's a completely personal journey. So it's just about reclaiming the synchronicity between your mind, your body, and your soul. So it's just becoming the most innate version of you before all of the shit happens in life, you know, before all of the other layers, the conditioning, the stories, the self-doubt, the stuff that people tell you that you can do or you can't do. Before all of that, like you. So it's incredibly, it's like an awakening. It's a reawakening to who you are. And you feel like you've come home in the most basic sense of it, but in all of its entirety, it really feels like you're just coming home. And that's what it is. It's every time you practice and every time you think about it, and taking how you feel in the practice, in the physical practice, into every other aspect of your life, because yoga isn't just an exercise that you do on a mat. It's how you live your life. It's how you relate to people. It's how you speak. It's the way that you think. It's how you talk about yourself. It's how you forgive. It's everything. It's how we forgive the builders for being so loud.
Well, you see, I don't practice yoga, so I can just yell at them. All right.
So it helps in many different ways. Many, many different ways.
Does it help you to deal with rejection?
So much.
How do you deal with rejection? That's one of the things that we didn't touch on, acting-wise.
Remembering that it's not personal. It's not a rejection.
Yeah.
It's not, you didn't want me. It's just, okay, I'm not right for this role right now. But I will be for another one. You just haven't found it yet. You haven't found me yet.
Yeah.
And
you're not looking very hard.
it does take some practice. And I do think that, mindfulness and spirituality and faith definitely help with rejection, because it builds your confidence. It builds your inner light.
Mm-hmm.
It builds your belief in yourself. And sometimes that can, diminish and you work to build it back up.
A little bit personal question. What do you think was the toughest thing that you had to go through in your life?
Where do we start?
I don't know.
God, there's been so many. There's been so many things that have been instrumental to my self-growth. Losing my dad at a young age was definitely a pivotal change in what I thought my life could have been, and it shapes who you become. It's a very formative time in your life. I was 6.5, so they say the first 7 years are your most formative years, and it definitely shaped who I am. But as tough as it was, and as tough as it was seeing my mum break, as tough as it was then in later life, or as it has been, seeing my sister only learn to grieve as an adult because she was so little. So reopening that whole kind of worms of grief and bereavement, it's been incredibly liberating to understand that that's how it had to be. And I know that's so hard for some people to understand, like, well, what do you mean that someone has to die? If that hadn't happened, our lives wouldn't be how they are now. And it's that acceptance of everything happens exactly how it's meant to, and there is a lesson in everything, as tough as it might be. In my adult life, I have placed a lot of importance on relationships. And I would say that I've had not the most fruitful relationships, but they have been incredible lessons. They've been incredible teachings in who I am and who I want to be. I went through a really, really dark patch after one relationship. And that was probably the biggest kind of like jump, I'd say, in maturity, in my understanding of who I am as a person, in love and forgiveness and betrayal. And so many things came from that relationship, so many lessons. And that's, I think, when I really started to lean into spirituality as something to help me cope. And then in the past, I'd say 5 years, going through different health situations has allowed me to kind of like recalibrate my self-worth yet again. So it's like you do it when you're, like a teenager, and then you're a young adult and you're trying to find who you are in this world, and you think you're all grown up and you're living your best life, and then you hit your 30s and it's like, no, you didn't have a clue. And what you thought was true was actually the lies that you were telling yourself, or the stories, or so the last 5 years have been a massive mirror. Losing my hair, going through different like health situations, going through a toxic relationship, all of these things, like having the PTSD, all of these things were reminders of that I wasn't listening to myself. I wasn't honoring myself, my heart, and what my soul really wanted. For, I don't know, validation, for the fear of being alone, for the fear of being judged, the fear of, I don't know, losing my career because of losing my hair. I don't know, all of these things, really reassessing what is my identity. That's been a massive, massive learning. So I would say there's been 3 major points in my life so far. I know it's not, there's more to come. I know that the healing and the learning never ends. But they have been incredibly tough moments, but the most eye-opening and expansive. The last year has been incredible for my development as a human being, as a woman, as an artist, because it all goes hand in hand. Right.
I think so. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I'm in my 40s, and I'm still trying to figure out what I am, what I want to do. My perception of myself as a grown up haven't changed since I was 12. I feel like I'm the same idiot. I say a lot of stupid things, try to make everyone, laugh, say so much stupid shit many times. Just, like throwing something and see if it sticks. Like, let's try this joke. Oh, it was stupid and offensive. I'm sorry. It's not what I wanted to do. I just wanted you to make you smile. You're screaming at me. I'm sorry. So, yeah, it's, but, what you said, understanding what you want and who you are. And it definitely doesn't go, I think, very often with people pleasing. Because very often understanding what you want is also mostly understanding what you don't want. We hate saying no to people. And that's what we have to do when we start thinking about ourselves. So how are you dealing with that?
Much better.
Yeah.
Much better. I found it really hard, ridiculously hard. I wouldn't say I've mastered it. Definitely not.
I mean, like you said yes to this podcast, so you definitely haven't mastered it yet.
True, but I am a believer in, helping our fellow creatives out. I have had many people offer me a helping hand when I've wanted to just like pick their brain, or can I ask you for your advice, or so if it's not going to take a lot of my energy and I believe in it, and it's not offensive to anyone, then why not? But I do think I am getting better at saying no when things maybe don't serve my higher purpose, or I'm overextending myself, spreading myself too thin. And with acting anyway, at the moment, I feel like it's a difficult balance, because I don't feel like I have the experience yet to say no to a role when it comes in and it's like, it's another unnamed role. Like, come on.
You never know who you will meet in the project.
You don't know. And no role is too small. So you just have to, get rid of that kind of, the ego or the sense of, I don't know, of that you think you're better than that, because it's not true. But sometimes there is a case of, say a commercial is for something that it's for a big corporate company that I don't agree with. So I've started to be better with that. Something that is not going to serve like my identity, and it's, normally I would just be going for the money. But in the long run, I don't think it would serve who I am as a person.
Yeah. Do you have a mission? Like something that drives you beyond the acting or your profession or work?
I think I'm starting to understand it. This past year has been instrumental to that, and it's connected to my purpose, my higher purpose, my mission, whatever you want to call it. And it's understanding that everything that I have been through, all of those tough moments that we spoke about, they've all boiled down to one thing, and it's relatability. Is how we relate to each other and how we relate to ourselves. And through yoga and the way that I teach and creating a space for people to find that again, it's allowed me to find this sense of this huge kind of gratification in seeing other people find themselves again. And it's not born out of this kind of savior complex of I want to save everyone. It's not that. It's just helping people rediscover who they are, aiding them in allowing themselves to really reconnect again and make time for themselves. Because the biggest epidemic that we have in this day and age is loneliness. And it's this digital world that we live in, this fast access, this we've lost the sense of connection. We're human beings at the end of the day, and we're made to connect. So when I've found connection within myself and with others, I would just love to be able to provide that and aid people in finding that, whether that is through yoga, through teaching, through acting, through writing, because that's why I fell in love with the arts in the first place. It's a way of connecting with yourself or others. It's providing a voice for people who haven't found that yet, who haven't been able to express or put words to an emotion that they just haven't placed, right? That's how I see films and books and songs and pieces of art, when you're like, oh my God, they've managed to perfectly capture this feeling. And that's how I was feeling back then. So you're able to find these threads of relatability and so I think all of that has a common thread through it, and why I do what I do.
Nice. I don't know about you, but I think since COVID, my world is still kind of post-COVID world that hasn't been fixed. Because the loneliness that I felt when we were in lockdowns kind of keeps on going. My life is, and I am still not the same. And I'm not sure if I will ever be the same as I was, because I was way more outgoing. I had I don't know, it's just, I had more communications with live people. Right now, it's absolutely different. And, there are because of specificity of what I do right now with the podcast and, not going to the office every day and everything. But yeah, I think loneliness is a huge epidemic right now.
It's massive. Yeah. It's huge. And again, we're not told to talk about it. Different communities, different genders, different generations, different ways of upbringing. You're not really told to, speak up about feeling lonely and being vulnerable. And I think we're getting better. We're definitely getting better at it. But the more devices we have, and the more apps, and the more things that we, constantly upload, the more we think that we have these people around us, and we're creating more and more space between us. So the loneliness is just growing.
It's just easier to hide, to numb that feeling of loneliness because you always have something in your
Saturated,
head. There's just like,
yeah.
I don't think about what's happening inside of me because I'm doom scrolling or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's true. Well, good luck on your mission. We need you. Next question. If you could give one piece of advice that would apply to everyone, no matter what they do, where they are, who they are, what would it be?
I think one piece of advice that could be generalized for most situations is remember why. Remember the why of everything, like why you're doing something, why you've chosen to do something, why you said what you said, like really come back to your reasoning and understand if that was like where it's coming from. I think that would help in like work, if you're an actor, if you're like in a scene even, or, you know, you're figuring out with like where your intentions lie, but also with just like life, with figuring out if you're doing something to please others or yourself. So really coming back to the center of why you've made the choice that you've made and understanding if that's serving you or someone else. Still working on it. Yeah, it's still a work in progress, but I think it's one of the biggest lessons that we could work on.
Okay. And finally, the new tradition that started this season. It's called Lasting Words. My previous guest, actor Fiona Hampton, left behind this quote for you without any context. I'm so depressed, I act like it's my birthday every day. If I'm not wrong, this is from Taylor Swift's song.
I'm so depressed, I act like it's my birthday every day.
Yes. So what does it make you feel?
Bless her. It feels sad. I mean, where my innate feeling goes is I would hope that I didn't feel empty enough to feel like I needed to fill my days every day with the false sense of celebration. That's just where it goes for me. But I do understand that there is an imagery of celebrate every day like it's your birthday because it's a new day of life, right?
Yeah.
That's what I would like to hold on for that quote. Not that I'm so depressed part. Not that we can't, own up to being depressed because it's very real. I've definitely been through it. But what I'm starting to realize is the power that words have, and saying I'm so depressed is very much attaching to an identity rather than I'm experiencing a period of depression, which was it really changed how I saw my depression and my anxiety and my periods of when I was experiencing that.
Well, and now it's your turn. So what I want from you, so if you could think of a phrase or a quote that's stuck with you, it could be something a loved one said, or maybe it's a quote from a line from a book, from a song, from a movie, anything that is truly meaningful for you. Where did you hear it and why? What does it make you feel?
So it was the first thing that came to mind because I actually read it somewhere quite recently. I read it on someone's post. It was on Instagram, and I can't remember how she says her name, but she's an author, and I don't want to butcher her name. I read it, and I was in the process of writing something about a birthday. I recently turned 35, so I was writing about the lessons that I have learned this year. And I saw this phrase and I was like, Like I'm going to take that with me forever. And I put it into my writing. Growth feels like loss until it feels like freedom.
Mm. Okay.
And I just thought it was so brilliant because it's so relative for so many different emotions and for so many points in life. You have to outgrow things, and you will go through that loss. You'll go through that grief. You'll go through this weird process of confusion, but there will be a sense, you will get to that liberation after, and you'll understand that you had to outgrow that. Mm-hmm. It's all progression, whether it feels like you're losing friends or you're losing your youth or you're losing the person you were, your job. It's all freedom.
Mm. Beautiful. Look, thank you so much for doing this. I will not sit here and pretend that I know you so well, but from all the interactions that I had with you and from this conversation, I have to say that it feels like you're a wonderful, very warm, smart person. And I'm sorry, also beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I'm so happy that we did this. And I hope that you will continue, conquering all the sides of all the directions that you're growing into. You will defeat loneliness. Tell me how you did that.
Defeat loneliness for everyone in the world.
Yes, and I hope we will have a chance to do that again once at some point. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
If you enjoyed this episode, and I hope you did, subscribe, and leave a comment. What do you think? Are you lonely? Do you want to connect with someone? Write it down. Bye.
Good prompt. Good call to action.